The screams echoed across the community pool deck like nails on a chalkboard. Margaret Hutchinson, her face the color of an overripe tomato, clutched her phone with white knuckles as she shrieked into it. Yes, 911. There's a man here threatening me. He's refusing to let me into my own community pool. I pay my dues. This is assault. Her voice cracked with theatrical desperation, but her eyes burned with pure rage. I stood there, calm as a cucumber, clipboard in hand, watching this 50-something-year-old woman throw what could only be described as an adult temper tantrum. Behind me, barely visible in my peripheral vision, stood Marcus Chin, my attorney. His phone was out, camera rolling, capturing every glorious second of Margaret's meltdown. She had no idea she was being recorded, and honestly, that made this whole situation even more satisfying. Let me back up a bit. My name is David Martinez, and 3 months ago I became the youngest HOA president in the history of Willowbrook Estates. I'd inherited a complete mess from the previous board led by none other than Margaret Hutchinson herself. For 5 years, she'd run this place like her personal kingdom, playing favorites, ignoring bylaws, and treating the community pool like her private resort. My first order of business was simple: enforce the rules that had been gathering dust for years. I sent out notices about unpaid dues, posted clear guidelines about pool usage, and most importantly, I revoked pool privileges for chronic violators. Margaret topped that list with $8,000 in unpaid dues and 17 documented incidents of misconduct, including bringing unauthorized guests, hosting after-hours parties, and verbally abusing the pool maintenance staff. The rules were crystal clear and posted in 3 locations around the pool area, but Margaret had operated above the law for so long, she genuinely believed consequences were for other people. When she received her revocation notice via certified mail, she laughed it off. When I had her key fob deactivated, she tried to tailgate other residents through the gate. When that failed, she started showing up during my shifts as pool monitor, testing my resolve. Today was her boldest move yet. She'd arrived with 6 guests in tow, all carrying coolers and pool floats, acting like she owned the place. "David," she said, with a saccharine smile that didn't reach her eyes, "surely you can make an exception for a founding member of this community. My sister is visiting from out of state." "I'm sorry, Margaret," I replied, maintaining my professional tone despite the smirk threatening to break through. "Your pool privileges remain suspended until your account is current and you've completed the behavioral agreement outlined in your notice." That's when her mask slipped. Her face contorted into something ugly as she stepped closer, jabbing her finger toward my chest. "Listen here, you little power-hungry nobody. I've lived in this neighborhood since before you were born. I built this HOA from the ground up. You think you can just waltz in here and push me around?" "I'm not pushing anyone around," I said calmly. "I'm simply enforcing the bylaws that you yourself helped write. According to Section 4, Subsection 3, any member with outstanding dues exceeding 6 months forfeits access to community amenities." Her sister and friends shifted uncomfortably behind her, clearly embarrassed by the scene. One of them tugged at Margaret's arm. "Maybe we should just go to the public pool instead." But Margaret was beyond reason. She yanked her arm away and raised her voice even louder. "This is discrimination, harassment. I'll have your job, David Martinez. I'll go to the news stations. I'll plaster this all over social media. Everyone will know what a tyrant you are." "That's your right," I said, glancing subtly at Marcus, who had positioned himself perfectly to capture both of us in frame. "But the rules apply to everyone equally." That's when she completely lost it. She threw her beach bag on the ground and pulled out her phone. "Fine. You want to play hardball? I'm calling the police. You're threatening me. You're physically preventing me from accessing property I own." "I haven't touched you, Margaret. I'm standing here with my clipboard, documenting this interaction as required by HOA protocol." "Liar," she screamed, then spoke into her phone with practiced hysteria. "Hello, police. I need help immediately at the Willowbrook Estates pool. There's a man here who won't let me in. He's being aggressive, and I fear for my safety." Behind me, Marcus quietly moved to a better angle, ensuring his video would clearly show the 5 feet of space between Margaret and me, my relaxed posture, and her theatrical performance. Margaret continued her award-worthy performance for the 911 operator. "He's blocking my path. He's intimidating me." I have witnesses. She gestured wildly at her embarrassed guests who were already backing away from the situation. Within 10 minutes, 2 police cruisers pulled into the pool parking lot. Officers Patricia Williams and James Thompson approached the scene with the weary expressions of cops who dealt with their share of HOA drama. "Ma'am, sir, what seems to be the problem here?" Officer Williams asked, her hand resting casually on her radio. Margaret immediately launched into her sober story, complete with crocodile tears. "This man is discriminating against me. I've lived here for 20 years and he's on some power trip, refusing to let me use the pool I pay for." Officer Williams nodded patiently, then turned to me. "Sir, can you explain your side?" "Of course," I said, pulling out a manila folder from my clipboard. "I'm the HOA president. Miss Hutchinson has had her pool privileges suspended due to $8,000 in unpaid dues and multiple violations of pool rules. Here's the documentation, including the certified mail receipt showing she was properly notified." Margaret's face went from red to purple. "That's a lie. I never received any notice." That's when Marcus stepped forward. "Officers, I'm Marcus Chen, attorney for the Willowbrook Estates HOA. I've been documenting this entire interaction." He held up his phone. "I have video footage of Miss Hutchinson approaching Mr. Martinez, making threats and falsely claiming assault. Would you like to review it?" The color drained from Margaret's face as she realized she'd been recorded. "You can't record me without my permission. That's illegal." "Actually," Officer Thompson interjected, "California is a 2-party consent state for private conversations, but this is a public area with posted security notices. Recording is perfectly legal." Marcus connected his phone to his tablet and played the video for the officers. There it was in crystal clear high definition. Margaret approaching aggressively, me standing calmly 5 feet away, her threats about going to the media and her blatantly false claims to the 911 operator. Officer Williams watched the video with raised eyebrows, then fixed Margaret with a stern look. "Ma'am, making false reports to 911 is a misdemeanor. You claimed assault and threats when the video clearly shows neither occurred, but he was intimidating me with his presence." Margaret sputtered. "Standing in a public area with a clipboard is not intimidation," Officer Thompson said. "However, misusing emergency services is a crime. We could arrest you right now." Margaret's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Her sister stepped forward. "Officers, please. She's just upset. We'll leave immediately." Officer Williams exchanged a look with her partner. "We're going to let you off with a warning this time, Miss Hutchinson. But if you call 911 again with false claims, you will be arrested. Do you understand?" Margaret nodded mutely. All her bluster evaporated. Furthermore, Officer Thompson added, "I suggest you respect the HOA's decisions regarding your pool access. If you have a dispute, handle it through proper legal channels, not by causing scenes and making false emergency calls." As the officers prepared to leave, Officer Williams pulled me aside. "You handled that well. Keep documenting everything. People like her don't usually give up after one encounter." She was right. Over the next 2 weeks, Margaret escalated her campaign against me. She sent dozens of emails to board members filled with wild accusations and vague threats. She posted rants on the neighborhood Facebook page that had to be removed for violating community guidelines. She even tried to organize a recall petition, but could only get 3 signatures, all from her wine club friends. Each action was meticulously documented by Marcus and me. The emails were saved, the social media posts screenshotted, and her attempts to confront me at my home were captured on my doorbell camera. We were building an airtight case. The breaking point came at the next HOA meeting. Margaret showed up with a small group of supporters, ready to stage a coup. She hadn't been officially notified that she was no longer welcome at board meetings due to her suspended status, but she barged in anyway. "I motioned to remove David Martinez as president for abuse of power," she announced, striding to the front of the room like she still ran the place. "You can't make motions," I said calmly from my seat at the board table. "You're not a member in good standing. In fact, you're not supposed to be here at all. This is a public meeting. I have every right to be here." Actually, Marcus stood up from the audience section. "HOA meetings are private gatherings for members in good standing. Given your suspended status and recent behavior, you're trespassing." That's when I played our trump card. Furthermore, based on the documented harassment, false 911 call, and continued disruption of HOA business, the board has voted to pursue a restraining order against you, Margaret. The room erupted. Some residents applauded, having suffered under Margaret's reign for years. Others gasped at the drama. Margaret herself stood frozen, her mouth agape. "You can't do that," she finally managed to sputter. "We can and we have," said Robert Kim, the vice president. The vote was unanimous. "You've left us no choice." Marcus approached Margaret with a folder. "M. Hutchinson, you're being served with a cease and desist letter. Any further contact with Mr. Martinez or interference with HOA business will result in immediate legal action. Additionally," I added, "your recent actions constitute grounds for liens against your property for the unpaid dues. We've been patient, but that patience has run out." Margaret looked around the room wildly, searching for support that wasn't there. Even her wine club friends averted their eyes. The residents who had endured her bullying for years watched with satisfaction as karma finally caught up with her. "This isn't over," she shrieked, backing toward the door. "I'll sue every last one of you. You'll be hearing from my lawyer." "We look forward to it," Marcus said cheerfully. "I'm sure the judge will be very interested in the video of you making false 911 calls and the documented evidence of harassment." 2 weeks later, Margaret's lawyer contacted Marcus. After reviewing the evidence, including the 911 recording and video footage, he advised his client to drop any potential lawsuits and comply with the HOA's demands. The legal fees alone would have bankrupted her, not to mention the potential criminal charges for misusing emergency services. At the special board meeting held the following month, the community voted overwhelmingly to pursue full legal action. Margaret was formally banned from all HOA property pending payment of her dues plus accumulated fines and legal fees, which now totaled over $15,000. The restraining order was granted, requiring her to stay 100 feet away from me and cease all contact with board members. The final blow came when Margaret's employer, a local real estate firm, caught wind of the situation. A realtor with a restraining order and a reputation for making false 911 calls wasn't good for business. She was quietly let go, her real estate license under review by the state board. Standing in the HOA office as Marcus filed the final paperwork, I watched through the window as a moving truck pulled up to Margaret's house. Word had spread that she'd listed the property, unable to afford the mounting legal bills and fines without her real estate income. "She brought it on herself," Marcus said, following my gaze. $25,000 in total, fines and legal fees, banned from HOA property, restraining order on her record, and lost her real estate career. All because she couldn't pay her dues and follow the rules like everyone else. I nodded, feeling a mix of satisfaction and pity. Margaret's house sold within a week, well below market value. In her desperation to leave, as the moving truck pulled away with the last of her belongings, I saw her in her car, shoulders shaking with what looked like sobs. For all her bluster and threats, she'd been completely defeated by her own arrogance and the simple act of enforcing rules she'd once helped.